She had dinner with her family on a Saturday night. She took an Uber home. Her garage door closed at 9:50 p.m. She was inside. She was alive. And then, 41 minutes later, she was gone. Not gradually, not mysteriously. Gone. And she has not been seen since. Her name is Nancy Guthrie. She is 84 years old. She depends on daily cardiac medication to stay alive. She has been missing for over 44 days, and in all of that time, across every single day of this investigation, there has not been one confirmed proof of life. Not once, not a whisper, not a photograph, not a phone call, nothing. Now here is what I need you to understand before we go any further. The FBI is not an agency that uses careless language. Every word in a federal statement is chosen on purpose. So when the FBI said publicly that someone was hired to provide information about Nancy Guthrie, they were not speaking loosely. They were not guessing. The word hired describes something specific, a transaction, cold, deliberate, calculated. A buyer who needed information they could not get any other way, a seller who had it, and a price paid in exchange for knowledge so intimate, so specific, so personal that it could only have come from one place, someone already inside the trust of that household. That is not a robbery. That is not an opportunistic crime. That is a conspiracy with roots that go back weeks before Nancy Guthrie ever went missing, and that changes everything about how we look at this case. Today, I am going to walk you through every documented fact surrounding one name, one connection, one criminal history sitting in plain sight inside Arizona court records that has received almost no serious mainstream analysis. Everything you are about to hear is verifiable. Every source is public, and by the time this is done, you will understand exactly why this name belongs in this conversation. Stay with me. If you are new here, welcome to Notebook V. This channel covers real cases with real documents, no speculation dressed up as fact. If this is the kind of storytelling that pulls you in, hit subscribe right now so you do not miss where this case goes next, because this investigation is still moving, and so are we. Let us start with who Nancy Guthrie is, because she is not a headline. She is a person. She is 84 years old. She lives in the Catalina Foothills neighborhood of Tucson, Arizona, one of the most affluent and quiet residential areas in the city. She is a woman of faith. She had dinner with her family on a Saturday night. She never made it to church the next morning. She depends on daily cardiac medication just to keep her heart beating. She is someone's mother, someone's grandmother, and she has been gone for over 44 days with no proof that she is still alive. Now I want to walk you through the night she disappeared, because the timeline is not just important, it is devastating. At 9:50 p.m., Nancy's garage door closed. She was inside. She was home. At 1:47 a.m., her doorbell camera was physically disconnected. Not a glitch, not a power outage, physically disconnected. At 2:12 a.m., a motion sensor triggered on the property. At 2:28 a.m., her pacemaker lost sync with her phone. 41 minutes. That is the entire window from the moment her camera went dark to the moment her pacemaker went silent. And in that 41 minutes, her blood was found at the entrance to her home. Before she was moved anywhere, before anything else, her blood at her own front door. That is the crime scene. That is what this investigation is built on. Now let us talk about the ransom notes, because they do not behave like ransom notes. They went to newsrooms, not to her family. Think about that carefully. Whoever sent those notes did not want to negotiate. They wanted coverage. They wanted noise. 2 deadlines came, 2 deadlines went, in complete silence. No third note, no escalation, no proof of life at any point across the entire investigation. FBI Special Agent in charge Heath Yanka said it publicly. In a normal kidnapping case, there would be contact by now. This is not a normal kidnapping case. Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos went on national television and said it clearly. This crime was planned. Nancy's home was deliberately targeted, and the planning was built on purchased inside information. That is not a sheriff speculating. That is a sworn law enforcement official using precise language in a public statement. Planned, targeted, purchased inside information. Former FBI behavioral profiler Jim Clemente reviewed the timeline and said the 41-minute window outside the home is analytically inconsistent with a professional kidnapping. Former FBI Special Agent Greg Rogers told Parade magazine he has never believed this was a robbery gone wrong. Former Nassau County Police Lieutenant Michael Selt Gold went further. Given Nancy's age, her cardiac medication dependency, and the documented physical trauma at the scene, she most likely did not survive beyond 72 hours of her disappearance. 72 hours. She has been gone for over 44 days. Now, here's the detail that dropped recently and reframes the entire picture. The FBI has formally requested that neighbors near Nancy's Catalina Foothills neighborhood submit security camera footage from 2 specific dates, January 11th and January 24th. Both dates are weeks before Nancy disappeared on February 1st. Investigators have not publicly explained why those specific dates. They don't have to. The implication is clear enough to read on its own. Someone was there before. Someone was watching. Someone was learning the neighborhood, clocking the routines, identifying camera blind spots, figuring out when Nancy was likely home alone, what the property looked like from the street in the dark. That is not impulsive. That is not random. That is reconnaissance. That is someone who came back to that neighborhood at least twice before they ever made a move. Someone who needed to know exactly what they were walking into. And a dedicated task force is now working this full-time. 5 Pima County Sheriff officers, multiple FBI agents. A mixed DNA sample from inside Nancy's home is still being processed at a private lab in Florida. New camera images have been recovered from the property. The camera requests are active. The investigation is not slowing down. It is narrowing. And that brings us to the name.
His name is Dominic Aaron Evans. He is 48 years old. He is a 5th-grade teacher in Tucson, Arizona, and he is the co-founding drummer of a band called Early Black, a band he built with Nancy Guthrie's son-in-law, Tommaso Cioni, starting back in 2007. That relationship did not last a season. It did not last a year. It lasted 17 years. 17 years of rehearsals, performances, recordings, conversations, shared creative space, and proximity to one of the most central figures in this investigation. This is not a stranger. This is not someone who crossed paths with the Guthrie family once at a party and moved on. This is someone woven into the fabric of that world for nearly 2 decades. Now, I want to be precise here, because precision matters. No law enforcement agency has officially named Dominic Evans a suspect. No one has publicly accused him of anything in connection with this case. The entire Guthrie family, including Tommaso Cioni, has been cleared by the sheriff. What I am doing right now is not accusing him. What I am doing is laying documented facts next to each other, in sequence, and asking the questions that those facts demand. So let us look at the facts. Arizona Pima County court records, cited publicly by the investigative account JLR Investigates on X, show a criminal history that includes charges of felony burglary, robbery, theft, embezzlement, and DUI. These are not minor infractions. Felony burglary means entering a structure with criminal intent. Robbery means taking from another person by force or threat. Embezzlement means using trusted access to take what does not belong to you. That last one is particularly important. Embezzlement is not a crime of impulse. It is a crime of position. It requires the perpetrator to already be inside something, already trusted, already given access, and then to quietly, deliberately monetize that access over time. Evans spoke with investigators. He confirmed it himself to the New York Times. Approximately 40 minutes with the FBI and the Pima County Sheriff's Department. He told them he was home with his family the night Nancy disappeared, and he has not been contacted since. One interview, 40 minutes, no follow-up confirmed publicly. Now, I want to bring back that word, hired, because the FBI did not just use that word as a description, they used it as a framework. And that framework has very specific implications for how this investigation should be structured. When federal law enforcement says someone was hired to provide information, they are describing a profile, and that profile has identifiable characteristics. First, access. The hired informant has to actually know something worth buying. That means proximity to the target, real proximity, the kind that comes from years inside a trusted social circle, not a single visit or a chance encounter. Second, trust. The informant is not a known threat. They are a familiar face, someone who moves through that world without raising suspicion because they've always moved through that world. Third, financial motivation or legal pressure, something that makes the transaction worth the risk. A criminal record that has left someone financially damaged, legally exposed, or simply accustomed to the logic of trading access for gain. Fourth, the specific knowledge sold has to match what the buyer needed. In this case, the buyer needed to know the layout of the property, the security vulnerabilities, the camera positions, the daily routine of an 84-year-old woman living alone, when she came and went, when she was home alone, how to get in and out in 41 minutes without being seen. Now map that profile against what we know publicly about Dominic Evans. 17 years of proximity to Nancy Guthrie's son-in-law, a face that would never raise a flag in that social circle, a criminal history that includes embezzlement, the monetization of trusted access, and felony burglary, the knowledge of how homes are entered. One interview, 40 minutes, no further contact confirmed. Now, I am not telling you what to conclude. I am telling you what the FBI's own stated framework demands that we ask. So drop your thoughts in the comments right now. Do you think 40 minutes with investigators is enough scrutiny for someone who fits this many data points inside the FBI's own informant framework? Because we are not done yet, and what comes next is something I almost left out entirely. Stay right here.
Let me put everything on the table at once, because this is the part where the individual facts stop being individual. This is where they become a picture. The FBI used the word hired. That is not casual language. That describes a transaction, a deliberate exchange of inside information for payment between someone who needed access and someone who already had it. The FBI formally requested surveillance footage from January 11th and January 24th, both dates weeks before Nancy disappeared. That means investigators believe someone was physically present in or near that neighborhood on those dates for a reason. Not randomly, not coincidentally, with purpose.
The doorbell camera was physically disconnected at 1:47 in the morning. This was not a technical failure. Someone knew where that camera was. Someone knew how to take it down quietly in the dark. That knowledge does not come from the outside. It comes from familiarity. The entire operation, from the reconnaissance dates in January, to the disconnected camera, to the 41-minute window, to the synchronized pacemaker data, reads not as a crime of opportunity, but as a crime of architecture. Someone designed this, someone drew a blueprint, and blueprints require information. The ransom notes went to newsrooms, not to her family. Both deadlines passed in silence. There was no third note. There was no proof of life, ever. Former law enforcement experts across multiple agencies have assessed that this does not match the behavioral profile of a genuine ransom kidnapping. It matches the profile of something designed to look like one. A mixed DNA sample from inside Nancy's home is still being processed at a private lab in Florida. New camera images have been recovered from the property. The task force is working around the clock. This case is not cold, it is compressing. The circle is getting smaller, and somewhere inside that circle are the answers. Now here is Dominic Aaron Evans, one more time, assembled in full. He is 48 years old, a fifth-grade teacher in Tucson. He is the co-founder drummer of Early Black, a band he built with Tommaso Cioni, Nancy Guthrie's son-in-law, in 2007. That partnership ran for 17 years. Pima County court records show charges of felony burglary, robbery, theft, embezzlement, and DUI. He spoke with investigators once, 40 minutes. He told them he was home the night Nancy disappeared. He has not been contacted since. No agency has named him a suspect. No agency has accused him of anything in this case. The Guthrie family has been cleared. This video is not accusing him. This video is naming a documented pattern and asking one direct question. Has the investigation examined every person who fits the FBI's own informant framework with the full depth that framework demands? A 17-year relationship with the son-in-law of the victim, a criminal history that includes both the financial crime of embezzlement and the physical crime of felony burglary, one short interview and no confirmed follow-up. That is the question, not a verdict, a question.
And now I want to step away from the analysis entirely, because I think we owe Nancy Guthrie that. She was not a case file. She was not a timeline. She was not a set of data points on a whiteboard at the FBI field office. She was a mother. She was a grandmother. She was a woman who took her faith seriously enough that missing church was not something she ever did willingly. She had dinner with people she loved on a Saturday night. She took an Uber home because that was the sensible thing to do. Her garage door closed. She walked inside. She put her things down, and something happened on that porch, something that the people responsible have spent 44 days working very hard to keep buried. She deserved to be found. She deserved the truth. Her family deserves the truth, and whoever is sitting right now with a piece of this, a vehicle they remember, a conversation that felt strange, a face in a neighborhood at an hour that did not make sense, a detail they have been quietly carrying because they were not sure it mattered. It matters. The tip line is open right now. 1-800-CALL-FBI. $1 million payable anonymously. If you know something, that line exists for exactly this moment. Before I close, I want to say something directly to everyone who came over from Audiobook VN. You showed up. You engaged with this content in a way that reminded me exactly why this work matters. You are the reason channels like this one can keep going deeper instead of staying surface level. Thank you, genuinely. If you are new here because of that community, you are exactly where you belong. Subscribe to Notebook V, turn on notifications, and stay with us. Nancy's story is not over. This investigation is not over, and we are not done following it. Here is where this case stands, stripped down to 3 questions that still do not have answers. Who was hired and who did the hiring? What happened in that neighborhood on January 11th and January 24th, and whose face is on the footage the FBI is now looking for? Has every person whose documented profile fits the FBI's own informant framework been examined at the depth that framework demands? Those questions are still open. The investigation is narrowing, and we will be here when the answers come. Every crime has a perimeter, and on the edge of the perimeter around what happened to Nancy Guthrie, there are people who know more than they have said.